The key to financial success is being frugal. To some, spending money is something they enjoy, it's something fun. To me, the fun is in saving money on absolutely everything. Some people might scoff at the idea of being smart with your portions, foraging for food, or going through the entire winter without turning on the heating. But that's what it takes to be really frugal. I turn on the lights only for special occasions to keep my electricity bills low. I walk 15 miles to the office and back every single day, and I time my weekly shower to make sure I keep it under 20 seconds. This is how I can afford the nice things in life, and this is how I spend as little money as possible. Not everything I just said is true. In fact, I would strongly not recommend you do any of those things in order to save money. But the issue is a lot of people confuse the words frugal and cheap, and there's actually a huge difference between them, even if they are often used interchangeably. Being cheap just means looking at the price of something and deciding not to buy it because of that price alone and nothing else. Being frugal means looking at the value of things. It means looking at whether something represents good value for the money you're about to put into it versus something else. Whether that something else is more expensive or cheaper, it really depends on the value that each of these items brings. Sometimes things that are more expensive can last a lot longer than cheap things, and therefore there is more value there. Sometimes there's absolutely no value in buying the expensive stuff because the cheap thing is just so much cheaper that you can keep replacing it however many times you want. In this video, I'm going to go through a few examples of the difference between being frugal and being cheap. Let's dive right in. At number one, I've got gadgets and technology and the endless pursuit of upgrading these by people who feel like they always have to have the latest version and the newest model and the thing that has a bunch of new features, most of which you will never ever want to use. Don't upgrade your technology if the thing that you're upgrading is already giving you everything that you want from the gadget or from the tool, and you don't actually need and specifically want the new features that the new gadget is going to give you. If the thing that you're replacing is already doing the things that you want it to be doing, why bother going through the rigmarole of getting rid of that one and buying a new one instead? I love technology as much as the next guy, but I've got an iPhone 7 and this phone works perfectly fine. I've had it for several years, coming on to 4 years now. It does everything I want it to do. There is very, very little difference between new phones and the iterations, and if you're buying a new phone every single year just for the sake of having that latest handset, it is really just a complete waste. The one big difference between the newer phones and some of the older ones is the camera. The camera seems to get better every single time, and the photos and the videos you can make on the newer phones are genuinely going to be considerably better than the ones you can make from several years ago. I've decided that I just get a dedicated camera for the photos and videos that I want to make, because the photos and the videos I'm going to make on that camera should hopefully be much better than anything I'll be able to capture on a phone for some time yet. In fact, this is the first video I'm making using the brand new camera that I've just bought. I hope you guys like it. For being able to call people, message people, communicate with them, read my emails, access the internet, watch a video, whatever it is, my old trusty phone will continue doing this for probably a few years yet, and I will continue using it because there is absolutely no reason to go and spend all that money to do exactly the same thing on a gadget that has a slightly thinner bezel. TVs, laptops, kitchen appliances, so often we go and replace something that works perfectly fine, that does absolutely everything we want it to do, with a newer, shinier, slightly better looking version of that thing, with new features and new ways of working that we probably don't want, that we probably will not actually use for no reason whatsoever. Sometimes it will be a present from one spouse to another just to make them feel nice. You know, hey, here is a new laptop, please enjoy it. We're just going to go and put the old one in a drawer so that it can live there, instead of being actually useful, just to make you feel nice for no gain whatsoever. At number two, I've got getting to know your house and car. For most people, these are the two most expensive things you're ever going to spend money on. In many cases, you're going to spend that money multiple times through your lifetime, gradually replacing or upgrading or changing the place you live and the car that you drive. They are also the two things that we tend to completely ignore when it comes to maintenance, when it comes to servicing, and when it comes to knowing fundamentally how they work. And I don't mean ignore, we just don't actually do any of it. What I mean is we outsource absolutely everything, and we outsource it to the place that is meant to do the servicing. If you have a car, you will go and take it to the branded dealership where they're gonna go and fix something really minor, do your oil change, or whatever other thing that your car needs doing. Many of these things are so incredibly simple to do that you can go and learn how to do them yourself, and not only be able to save money on servicing or on being able to maintain it, but actually understand how this thing that you spend this huge colossal amount of money actually works, at least in some way. I've known people who don't know how to open the bonnet on their own car, they don't know where to put the screen wash, and they will take the car to the garage to have the air filter replaced. Something that will take you under 1 minute to do with absolutely no tools and no knowledge on almost every single car. The cost of having somebody come out to fix something in your house or replace something can be really high. Often you'll be charged for just a call out, which will be £30, sometimes £60. Then there's going to be a per hour fee. Then every minute that they spend going to the shop to buy the part that they need is going to cost you extra. And before you know it, it's going to cost you a few £100s to do something that you probably could have just looked up yourself and gone and fixed in a matter of minutes. The internet is an amazing place to learn whatever skills you need and how to do any job that you want. And I'm not advocating that you go and do incredibly difficult, labor intensive and very complex projects. But in some cases, I have known people who literally had somebody come round to change their light bulb. Now, don't be that person. There's a lot of small things that you can learn to do yourself, and it's actually quite enjoyable to learn more about how your house works, how the different parts of your house work, and how you can do some small amendments, improvements, and fixes as you go. While we're in the subject of expensive things, let's talk about cars. More specifically, let's talk about buying cars. A lot of people come to this from two different directions. Either they're of the mindset that you should spend as little as possible, it is just a thing on four wheels that gets you from point A to point B, and there's another type of person who will go and spend a colossal amount of money. They're gonna go and get those kind of hire purchase, lease deals, whatever it is, throw away a ton of money every single month just to be able to drive something that is very flashy, that will impress their friends and make them feel better for it. There are two super simple rules that most people will do very well out of following in terms of buying cars. I'm going to give you them right now. Number one, don't buy new. Number two, don't buy old. Very, very simple. Find a car that is somewhere between 3 and 5 years old. In many cases, those cars are still going to have very low mileage. They're still going to feel brand new. Most of the components and the parts are still going to last you a very long time. Those cars have probably had the first big service at that point, and after that, maintenance is going to be relatively cheap until they get quite a bit older. Buying a new car will cost you a huge amount of money in depreciation the moment you've driven it off the forecourt, and buying an old car will cause you an endless amount of stress replacing parts, replacing bigger and bigger parts. Your exhaust system is going to go, you're going to have problems with your engine that will be very expensive to fix. You're going to have things break that don't break on newer cars, and these things are going to become quite annoying. I know because I've been there. Your window motor is going to break, the other window motor is going to break, the pump that pumps the screen wash is going to break, everything is going to begin breaking, and is going to be happening every single month. With an older car, you're always going to be wondering, am I actually going to make it on this 300-mile journey to go and see some relatives? You're always going to be replacing parts. It's going to become a never-ending source of worry, because one week your window motor will go, the next month the other window motor will go. Every single thing in the car that can theoretically break will eventually begin breaking as the car ages, and this is only going to accelerate. Don't buy yourself that risk and that massive liability. Go and buy something a little newer than that. Frugal tip number 4 is to get the best price on whatever it is that you're trying to buy, irrespective of how expensive that thing is. Just because you're wanting to buy something that is a bit more premium, that is a bit more expensive, that is maybe going to cost more than a more budget version that you could have bought, does not mean that you need to go and pay over the odds by buying it in a flashy shop, by showing off that you went to the most premium boutique to go and buy this item. The same item can usually be purchased from a number of different shops, and in many cases you can buy it for cheaper from somewhere a little bit less flashy. I'm not saying you have to go full whack and be collecting coupons from various newspapers and be cutting out very special promotion deals and scour the internet for hours and hours finding the absolute perfect code that you might be able to use to get free delivery on something. Although, you know, some of that is still valid, but in many cases you're going to waste a colossal amount of time. What I mean is just be smart about your shopping. If you're looking to buy something that is available through online stores, on Amazon, wherever else, for less money than what you can buy it in the physical store, go and order it online instead. Even if you go and look at it in the physical store first, just to make sure that it's right, go and buy it where it's cheaper. If it's the other way around, don't be lazy, don't just order it online, go to the actual physical shop where you can pick it up if it's going to save you money. If you're making a larger purchase, spending just a small amount of time to go through a cashback website or some form of a discount website in order to purchase it can save you a huge amount of money. If you're buying a fridge, if you're getting a new credit card, if you're buying some form of travel, you can often save a lot of money by doing this type of thing, sometimes as much as 3 to 5, even 10% depending on what it is that you're buying. And if you're spending £1,000 or £2,000 on a purchase, that can be a huge amount of money that you can save for just 5 minutes of going and looking it up and seeing if there is a discount to be had. Now don't mistake this with being cheap. Do not immediately go and say, alright, well this thing is more expensive and I can go and buy a cheaper and perhaps inferior item somewhere else. If you are set on buying this item, no matter how expensive or cheap it is, there are still ways of just being smart with exactly how and where you buy it in order to save. Frugal tip number 5 is to become a personal finance expert. Everyone can become an expert in the field of various different consumer finance products, credit cards, loans, current accounts, investment, how to manage your money better, how to invest it the right way, how to make more of the money that you have, how to make the money that you have stretch further. There is a huge amount of knowledge that you can pick up about this online, and the best way to do it is to subscribe to this channel. Right now, go and subscribe to this channel. That is exactly what I talk about 3 times a week. Every single week. I've got a ton of videos coming out with really in-depth reviews of things that you might be interested in, things like challenger banks, things like different kinds of credit cards, all of that stuff coming in the next few weeks and months, so make sure you've subscribed if you haven't done so already. But in general, it is just a really great idea to learn how to make more of your money through being smarter with finances, because being smart with finances is not just a small thing. It can be a huge differentiator between people who build wealth and become more rich and become better off over time, and people who just throw the money away because they haven't invested that time to educate themselves. Are you ready for tip number 6? Here it is. Stop trying to impress people. This often affects younger people who maybe want to go and impress their friends, who maybe want to be in fashion, always staying one step ahead of wherever they think they need to be, and trying to make people feel like they are more impressive, like they're more successful, like they're more rich than they need to be. Trust me, it is just not worth it. It is paper thin, it is completely pointless, and it will get you nowhere in the long run. A lot of people will buy clothes because it has a big badge which will tell you exactly how expensive that item is, which particular luxury store they had to go and get it from. Better still, you can have one badge on your shirt, another on your jacket, a third one on your bag, whatever it is that you have. Everything has to be very expensive. Some people will like to show off to their friends when they go out for a meal by paying with that very expensive metal looking, platinum looking charge card that costs you several £100s a year just for the privilege of telling people that you have this very expensive charge card so that you can have a topic of conversation to show off your wealth. Let me tell you something. If your friends are genuinely impressed by all of these things, you should find better friends. Because life is so much more than various fashion items, than various labels, than things that cost 20 times what they should cost because they have a badge on it, even though they're probably made in the same factory or just down the road from the other item that would cost you considerably less. Now, I'm not saying that you should go and buy the cheapest possible items, the cheapest possible clothing, not have a nice watch, not have any of these nice things in life. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying don't do it for the sake of impressing friends. If you're some kind of watch fan and you're really big on collecting watches and you're really interested in how they work, their history, whatever it is, hey, I don't have a problem with you owning a watch that you particularly love, that makes you happy every time you look at it, that makes you happy every time you wear it. But you don't need to do it just to go and impress somebody. You need to do it for you. I wear the same clothes every time. Everything in my wardrobe matches with everything else. You might have noticed it if you watch more than one of my videos. I generally wear one of these tops. They all pretty much look exactly the same, maybe slightly different colors, but kind of like very similar. I generally wear a pair of jeans, and I have several different pairs of jeans which all look exactly the same. I like them. I don't care. I don't really care what other people think about the fact that I don't have snazzy, the latest kind of fashionable type of jeans. These jeans are comfortable, they fit me well, and I'm quite happy wearing them. I have one pair of shoes that are informal that I wear. I have one pair of shoes that are formal. I have a pair of trainers, and I have some boots that I wear for working outside and all of that kind of stuff. That's pretty much the exclusive list of my footwear. Ooh, I also have a pair of flip-flops. I wear them like once or twice a year when I go on holiday, and if it's a particularly nice weather day in the UK and I'm going somewhere sunny or to the beach or something, that, you know, 1 or 2 days a year when that happens, I might be able to wear them on that day as well. That's about it. I don't really care what other people particularly think about me because of that. The people that think particularly negatively of the fact that I dress in the way that I do, I don't really care about them. I don't care about their opinions. If I really cared about people's opinions, I wouldn't be starting a YouTube channel, because pretty much everyone I know thinks that it's a bad idea. People will tell you it's a really bad idea to go and do something like that. They tell you it's stupid. They tell you that it is a complete waste of your time. It is a complete waste of your efforts. If I cared about what they think, I wouldn't be doing this. So do me a favor. Don't waste your time thinking about what other people will think about it. Stop trying to impress them. Do the thing that's right for you. Do the thing that matches your goals and ambitions and things that you want to achieve. And then people might be impressed by those achievements instead of the particular brand of clothing that you're wearing. Frugal tip number 7 is to make sure that you have an emergency fund. I can't stress enough how important this is. Even if you have a very low amount of income, even if you don't have much money, it is crucially important that you have that fund for when the emergency strikes, because trust me, it will. It happens to everyone. Your boiler will break, your car will break down, your roof will leak, you'll get in some kind of legal issue. Whatever it is, you will need an amount of money, and you'll need it fast. You'll need it on a Saturday afternoon, you'll need it on a Sunday morning, you'll need it at a time when the bank is closed, you'll need it in shorter timescales than the credit card takes to arrive. Whatever it is, you need to make sure that that money exists. And this is where it's a very big difference between being frugal and being cheap. If you're being cheap, you will just ignore it. You will not put your money towards something that is hypothetical, that is not actually necessary in your view, that doesn't tie in with your short-term objectives. But being frugal means that you are prepared for things when they do happen, and that means having an emergency fund. And this is what I don't see anybody else talking about, and that is that emergency fund does not have to be a huge amount of cash that is sitting under your mattress for that rainy day. It doesn't even have to be a separate bank account where that money just sits there doing absolutely nothing. If you have excess money, you can go and put it into any form of investment where the money is liquid. And what that means is you can go and take it out within a few seconds or maybe a few minutes at any time of day from that investment, and that won't jeopardize your ability to then go and reinvest or reuse that form of investment in the future. If you don't have a pot of money, you can still have an emergency fund of sorts by having a permanent line of credit available to you that exists exactly for this reason. So you might have a credit card that is a low rate, that is very cheap to use, that just sits there waiting for this to happen. You might use it once a month and repay it in full just to make sure that your card doesn't get closed down, to make sure they don't go and chop your limits away or anything else like that. But for some people, that credit card might be the best value option for having that emergency fund. You can go and pay on it straight away. You don't have to wait for anything. That money is readily available. And a lot of people say, well, that's a really bad idea. You're basically encouraging borrowing. Well, sure, but if you don't have the money up front and you've gone and prepared for the eventuality by getting this credit card in the first place, whatever interest you might pay in an emergency is still likely to be cheaper than any other way that you might be able to get that money. And also the cash that you do have can then go and earn interest in the form of various types of investments instead. So whatever interest you'll pay on the credit card is likely to be considerably less than the benefit you'd get from having the cash equivalent invested over a longer period of time through all the interest and interest on interest you would earn over that period of time on that cash instead. At number 8, I've got a tip that you might think contradicts something I mentioned 2 tips ago, and that is investing in quality that lasts versus buying cheap stuff that doesn't. Now I know I said that you shouldn't go and buy really expensive things just to impress your friends, but that didn't mean that you shouldn't ever buy things that are more expensive than the budget version. In some cases, buying the expensive item is actually a frugal and a very smart idea because that item will last considerably longer than the cheap equivalent. With clothes, that's definitely the case. A lot of clothes you buy from a cheap retailer can go bad after the first wash. They're definitely gonna look less fresh, the fabrics might stretch, the color might go a bit funny, they might run and ruin your other clothes. Whereas if you bought a premium version of the same clothes from a shop, you might find that that lasts considerably longer, and even after you've owned it for a year or two, it might still look pretty much new. Now that doesn't hold for every single expensive version of something versus a cheap version of something. You need to go and do your research, you need to go and find the things that actually work for you and that you find actually last, or use reviews, whatever it is. A lot of expensive stuff genuinely is bad value. A huge proportion of it is just a massive waste of money where you're paying for a brand, but in some cases that investment may turn out to be better value, making you more frugal in buying it versus a cheaper alternative. A nice coffee machine might set you back £300 to £500, but once you've made that investment up front, you're then making amazing tasting, really great coffee for something like 10p per cup. Whereas if you didn't do it, if you went and bought a cheaper machine for say £80 to £100, you might find that it breaks whenever the next time one of the cheaper plastic components inside gives way. A lot of people will not want to go and invest in a coffee machine because they like their coffee through filters, they like drip coffee, they like instant coffee, whatever it is. I'm not going to argue here. The thing is, you need to decide what the right investment for you is and whether you perceive there to be value in that in order for it to be worthwhile. If you find my crazy obsession with coffee entertaining and you like me talking about it in pretty much every single video, please make sure you smash that like button. I really appreciate it. It would help my channel grow and reach more people more quickly. If you really don't like me talking about coffee, make sure you smash that like button as well so that then I can go and reconsider. Although, nah, I don't think I will, but smash that like button anyway. If you have no interest in coffee whatsoever, just forget I mentioned any of the above. Go and make sure you smash that like button so that we can just move on and stop talking about coffee. Come on, go and do it right now so that we can go and talk about something else. Number 9. Prioritize your spending based on value, not the price. Now this sounds a little bit similar to a few things that I talked about earlier, but it's not quite the same. Here the point is, if you're going to spend an amount of money, you need to go and decide whether the value is there for you in terms of your time, in terms of your enjoyment, in terms of what you actually want to do with that money. For example, do you enjoy watching a movie in the evening? Do you enjoy watching a movie at the weekend? Do you like putting your feet up after you've made dinner and you want to relax a little bit before you go to sleep? If so, a Netflix subscription may be great value for the price of something like 2 beers a month. Well, if you live in central London, maybe like half a beer or maybe a shandy, maybe even just a soft drink, whatever it is incredible value to a lot of people. To other people who don't watch that many movies, who don't like watching series, maybe going and spending some time with your friends is better value. Again, you've got to make the decision for what is right for you. A lot of people will have hobbies that may seem really expensive, and a lot of people will often say, well, you're not being frugal, you just spend all this money on something that I personally wouldn't have spent the money on. It is a really bad way to spend. Now let's say you like hiking, you go and spend £150 on some hiking boots, and a lot of people say that is crazy expensive, you could just wear your trainers, that is a massive waste of money, that is no way to be frugal. But when you consider that this gets you a load of hours, days, weekends, even entire weeks of being able to hike wherever it is that you want, and your feet will be dry, your feet will be comfortable, they won't be in pain, you won't get a load of blisters, you can go and hike the next day and enjoy the moment a lot more. When you divide that £150 investment between that amount of time, actually on a per hour basis, using the per hour lens, you're basically saying, hey, this has cost me almost nothing. The amount of enjoyment I'm getting out of it is worth a lot more than the 10p or whatever it is per hour that I'm essentially investing in having these boots. So to that person who enjoys doing that activity, that is a hugely amazing and frugal investment. Being frugal is all about choices. You need to decide what you want to invest your money on and what is great value for you. It is not about what's good value for somebody else. It is not about what's good value for some of your Facebook friends, anybody on social media. Ignore all of that. It is all about you. Being frugal is making smart choices that are good value for you. If other people have opinions on what people should spend money on, great, that's up to them. They can decide to live their own version of their frugal or maybe not quite so frugal lives, and you shouldn't be bothered about that just as much as you shouldn't care about what they think about your choices. Frugal tip number 10 is being smart with planning and budgeting. This is incredibly important. I have a whole separate video that I've put together all about the 10 places where you need to put your money the moment you get paid. It talks specifically step by step how you should think about the process of budgeting and the process of deciding what to do with your money whenever you get paid and how to apportion it for the month. Go and watch it. I'm going to put a link up here. I'm going to put a link in the description below. It is incredibly important to be smart with planning and budgeting. Those who don't plan and those who don't budget, no matter how much money they make, will often find themselves in a bad place. The moment you get paid more, you will find new ways of spending that money. You will find new expensive things that you need to buy, that you really want, the things that you didn't even know existed before you were earning more money. You will find new travel destinations that are more expensive than the travel destinations that made you perfectly happy before. You will find new expensive cars, bigger houses, whatever it is. If you are smart with planning, you will be able to make a lot more of whatever money it is that you're earning and plan for the future in a much more smart and much more focused way. This step is incredibly crucial. If you don't plan and deliberately make moves towards achieving that plan, any long-term goals that you have will remain long-term, and they will remain goals. You will never get one step closer to them. Things like pensions and investments are not just for rich people. No matter how much you earn, you can begin investing and putting money towards your retirement today, and the value of these investments and pensions grows so much over time that when you get there, you will really wish that you started thinking about it earlier. Every single person does when they get there. It is an incredibly important lesson in life to start as early as possible. The moment you get educated about how much difference it makes, go and start thinking about those things. It will really help you further down the line. Planning is also incredible at just making you feel happier and making you feel better. If you're spending money that is within that budget, you don't feel any guilt, you don't feel any pressure, you don't feel bad about it, you feel happy and you feel like everything is on track because it is. If you have any thoughts on ways in which you can be frugal without being cheap that I haven't mentioned in this video, please make sure you go and leave a comment below. I love reading comments and respond to every single comment. Please make sure you go and put your thoughts there. I'd love to have a bit of a discussion. If you haven't done so already, please make sure you go and smash that like button for the YouTube algorithm. It is incredibly important. For a small channel like ours, I say ours, it's just me. It's literally just me in this room making and editing these videos. There's nobody else. But anyway, for a channel like ours, it is incredibly important. Guys, if you haven't subscribed already, please make sure you go and subscribe, hit the bell so you get notifications every time one of my videos comes out. I'll see you later.